The 90s, it was edgier, it was grungier, it was a little more self-aware.
Time for total escape.
The industry is changing, both on the big screen and on the small screen.
It opened up a whole new world.
Every night we were blowing shit up.
It's a big ride.
Groovy.
Hell no. I'm not going to look in the mirror and say Candyman 5 times. I'm not stupid.
All the A-list stars, they want to be able to see what it feels like to rip off somebody's head.
Hello, fellow followers. Welcome back to FanZcene. Greg here. And today I have for you, streaming content may be Hollywood's final act. What do I mean by that? Well, we're going to get into it. But first, before we do, if you do want to purchase In Search of Darkness 1990 to 1992 documentary, I will have a link in the description down below. Clicking that link does help support my channel. And if you do like what I do, I would be greatly appreciated if you do that, if you do decide to order it by using my link. And, you know, maybe if you do like what you see here, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But let's get into why streaming content may be Hollywood's final act. I saw this article from Forbes, which I'm going to bring up, and I'm not going to go over the whole article. I'm going to start here where I got it because this is where the article gets to the meat of the situation. I will put a link in the description down below if you do want to read the whole article, but like the first over half of the article explains how streaming came to be, from Reed Hastings and Netflix, how it was founded and how they did DVDs by mails and decided, hey, let's do streaming. And then it became a big tech corporation, and then how studios saw that, it was like, hey, we need to get in on that streaming, and then they all got in on the streaming, and so now we have multiple streaming services, and it really goes over the biggest offenders of Netflix and Disney, what they've really done to it, and Bob Iger and all that, which is, it's fascinating if you want to go through all that, if you don't know all that, but I know all that, and I've covered that in multiple videos. But like I said, I will have a link in the description down below if you want to go read it. But let's start here where it talks about the strikes that happened in Hollywood. It says, one of their common concerns was residuals, royalties paid to actors and writers for reruns of the films and television shows they work on, as well as other airings after the initial release. The basic remuneration structure was developed in the aftermath of the 1960 strike, and it has been since applied to successive forms of media. Actors and writers are typically paid each time a show runs on network or cable television, and they also receive residuals when someone buys a Blu-ray disc or DVD, just like when they bought VHS tapes were sold. However, the advent of streaming cast a dark spell on the structure, and subscribers usually pay a monthly or annual fee to get access to a studio's entire library rather than paying to watch each production. This led to a crash in the residuals, which set the stage for the strikes. That is one of the reasons why I cannot stand streaming. Like I've said a million times, my stance on streaming has never been that it's streaming movies and TV shows directly into your home, right? That's what people want. That's what the masses want. And they cover, like I said, it covers that in this article up there in the beginning with the pandemic, and they sort of got people used to getting movies and TV shows directly into their home. And that's what, you know, with the theaters, and then it caused lots of problems with that. And so, but now we're at a certain situation where the writer strikes and the actor strike happened. And we're going to get into all this because, let's be honest here, it didn't work for all parties involved, the studios, actors, or writers. And you see here, there was a set place for everything, for DVDs, Blu-rays, and theaters, and a home video and all that, where people were making bank. And then streaming came along and caused some major problems in Hollywood. Let's continue. It says here, the addiction to streaming had finally brought the curtain down on Hollywood, as production pipelines soon dried up during the shutdown, leading to losses across the entire film industry, from studios down to special effects firms, as we recently revealed. The resolution of the strikes in the fall last year piled on the pain for studios, as they agreed on a formula to pay workers a share of their streaming spoils as part of an increased pay package. It added to the cost of making content. I hate that freaking word, content, which was already colossal. In January, Variety forecast that the top 10 studios would spend a combined $120 billion on entertainment content. Once again, content. It's not. This year, putting the total loss during the 6 months of the strikes at approximately $60 billion. Taking the amount of money out of the ecosystem caused chaos for cash flow across the industry and is still reeling from it. So, in other words, these strikes were not good for multiple reasons, not just for the actors, not just for the writers and the studios. Like I mentioned, it cost billions of dollars and it hurt the industry, Hollywood industry, bad. And you know what? I can't. I got to be honest. I can't feel that sad for them. I really can't. They brought this on themselves in the lure of streaming. They brought this on themselves. It continues by saying, in July, visual effects giant Framestorm closed its Vancouver office as a result of the industry-wide fall in production post the SAG-AFTRA strikes in the second half of 2023. The decline hasn't let up since then, according to the Q4 2024 Global Production Report from the ProPod, which tracks TV and film productions. It shows that the number of U.S. productions during the second quarter of 2024 was down about 40% on the same period in 2022, whilst there has been a 20% decline globally over the same period. It hasn't just affected industry giants, but grassroots businesses as well. According to a recent report by the BBC, unemployment in film and TV in the U.S. was 12.5% in August. But many think the number is actually much higher because many film workers either do not file for unemployment benefits because they're not eligible, or they've exhausted those benefits after months of unemployment. So look, not only has streaming come along and done this, it's cost people their jobs. It's cost billions of dollars, right? I get it. You're accustomed to having those movies and TV shows to stream directly into your house, but there was this whole thing set up for years. Before this is why I fucking hate Netflix, because Netflix did this and they've destroyed entertainment. Plain and simple. Netflix did this. This is why I like independent. This is why I'll talk about the Terrifier movies and how they succeeded from a completely independent thing, and how like if you really want to get employment independence where it's at, yeah, it doesn't pay as much as Hollywood, but Hollywood doesn't seem to be paying much anymore at all because of these strikes, because of streaming. Productivity is down. Hollywood is crashing right now. Crashing big time. You know, if we still had physical media as one of the top things, it would be great. But they've foregone that. They want to get to streaming, and they can't admit failure. And the more they hedge their bets on this, the worse it gets. Let's continue into the article. It says, testimony to this, the BBC talked to the owner of a drone company founded in 2012, which filmed scenes for movies. The report says that the company was operating nearly every day before the strikes, but has only flown its drones for 22 days in the year since the strikes ended. The article makes no bones about what has fueled the crisis. The air has come out of the content bubble, says Matthew Belloni, founder of entertainment industry title Puck News. Crisis is a good word. I try not to be alarmist, but crisis is what people are feeling. And I've seen this sentiment echoed a lot throughout lately as Hollywood. As I cover physical media. That's why I cover physical media and horror on the channel, but I keep my ear to the ground on like Hollywood entertainment because I'm an entertainment channel. And I've heard this a lot lately. There's a big crisis going on with this. And it's also why I think, like I covered in my last video, once again, to go back to Terrifier, why Hollywood is trying to push this narrative of horror fatigue, because a movie like Terrifier, completely independent, came in and took money from them and was shown that there's a way to do things. And you know what? The Terrifier is going to be it's in theaters. It's not streaming yet, and then it will be streaming. And at the same time, they'll be releasing a big physical media set of it. It's like old school. I'm just saying. And let's continue with this. And also, I love hearing that the content bubble burst. It says, he explains that when the share prices of studios soared as they launched their own streaming platforms, it caused an overheating of the content market. There were 600 scripted live action series airing just a few years ago, and then the stock market stopped rewarding that. Baloney adds that fuck Netflix, crashed. All the other companies crashed. Netflix has since recovered. Yes, they have. They're the only one of the streaming services that have made money, and I'm going to get to why Disney all of a sudden has started to make a profit too, because I've seen it down there. Says, but the others are really struggling to get profitable. I think Peacock we saw was losing like $10 million a day. Says Disney's DTC division finally made its first profit. This is why latest quarter, but only when its sports streamer ESPN Plus is included. In other words, nobody gave a shit about Disney Plus until they added sports, and then people started. Then it made a profit because more people were into sports than they are into Agatha all along and their Star Wars bull crap. Plain and simple. It says, without it, the result was a $19 million loss. Without ESPN, they had a $19 million loss. In total, the DTC vision has accrued $11.4 billion of losses since Disney Plus was launched. So a happy ending could still be far, far away. And honestly, I hope it fails. I hope Disney Plus fails. I cannot stand Disney. It's horrible. It's horrible. But I find it funny that, Disney, in order for Disney to be successful, they had to add in ESPN. Without it, they would have lost $19 million. That's insane. That's insane. It says, indeed, according to Sony Pictures Entertainment Chief Executive Tony Vinciquerri, the strikes have done permanent damage to Hollywood. In a speech at the MicCon program market in Cannes this week, Vinny, whatever his name is, said that the impact of the strikes on the U.S. industry has been far more severe than has been appreciated. It's really still impacting us, both on the film and television side, he said, explaining that the length of the strikes as well as the improved contract terms have forced productions out of the U.S. So we're not even making stuff in the U.S. anymore. It says not that we much did. I mean, most of the were made in like Canada and other stuff, but I mean, like less and less in the U.S. That's bad. That's bad. It says, we tried to talk to the unions about what we thought would happen, he said, and now it's happening. It's pushing production out of the U.S. This is compounded by attractive international tax incentives which have lured many major U.S. production to foreign countries, as we have extensively reported. The costs of the crews are significantly less outside the U.S. in Australia and England and Eastern Europe, places like that, so there's very significant differences. In other words, screw the U.S. It's cheaper to go elsewhere. And you know what? I know people don't like hearing this, but that takes away from the U.S. economy. That does. People, I mean, I know we can sit here and, say, oh, Hollywood deserves this, Hollywood deserves that. But all those workers that work on, the crews are the hardworking middle-class people of Hollywood. The caterers, the lighters, the gaffers, all them, and the people that set up everything, that build the sets and all that. Those are the hard worker people behind Hollywood that make the directors and actors all that good, and they're losing their jobs because they're going elsewhere outside of the U.S. and that hurts the economy. That hurts the U.S. economy. It does. That's sad. That's sad. It says, in contrast, California just hasn't responded to what's going on in the world. Why would? California lives in its own bubble where they have no idea what's going on in the world. They do not live in the real world. California is just absolutely dreadful. It says, just hasn't responded to what's going on in the world, he added. The incentives and the cost of doing business in California is so high that it's very difficult to price out a film. There are a lot of TV productions going on in California, but not as many big budget films. Given that streaming subscriptions have declined from their peak and theater admissions are still far from the pre-pandemic peak, the multi-billion-dollar question is, how are many customers actually watching content now? The answer might be illegally, which I've covered this. A report from Bloomberg revealed that the usage of pirates sites has soared since 2020 to more than 140 billion visits from about 105 billion prior to the pandemic, according to estimates from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Global Innovation Policy Center. It's too late to get that genie back in the bottle now. Once the studio's back catalogs hit the internet, they could instantly be copied and made available to pirates all over the world. Walt Disney must be turning in his grave. Exactly. And I've covered this, and there's a great video I did here on my channel. I will put a link somewhere where you guys can see it. It's called Why Hollywood Never Wanted You to Have Physical Copies of Movies in the First Place, right? Because I go over it's all perpetrated by piracy. That's why they've never wanted. That's why they hated the VHS boom. That's why they hated us being able to have VCRs. That's why they arrested Roddy McDowell and many other people for having 35 millimeter prints and 16 millimeter prints, because it's all predicated on piracy. Now, piracy is at a all-time high. You can go online and watch pretty much everything that's in the theaters and everything that's on TV for free by downloading it, and you can actually buy Blu-rays and DVDs of everything, and even VHS tapes, because people are putting them on VHS tapes before those movies even have a chance to be bought. and this is hurting them. I mean, if you would have just stuck to your guns of what we had before, it would be so much better. And I highly recommend you see my video that I did on that, where I cover some of that with why they don't want you to get physical media. But I saw this, and this is interesting because this isn't the first time I've heard all this. Hollywood is in dire shapes, and honestly, it's streaming that did it. People say, why do you always, badmouth streaming? What streaming? Everybody, like I mentioned, yeah, it's easy. It's right there for you. You can get it, but it's costing real hardworking people their jobs. It's costing us actual good entertainment. It's costing a lot. And it's a horrible system that is losing millions of dollars. And if it wasn't for certain things, they would all be gone. And they would be losing even more money. It's insane to think. And that's why I like physical media. Synapse just released Trick or Treat, the 1980s Trick or Treat, Sammy Kerr, on 4K. It's coming this Halloween. The site crashed. And I know some people say, oh, they got to stop releasing those special sets. That's too much money with all those cards. But you know what? They're also making a standard version of that 4K where it's just going to be the movie, no bells and whistles, no cards, posters, and all that for a much cheaper price. And they're rushing that out to get to people who may have missed that. Studios need to pay attention to that physical media. Biggest problem with physical media right now is there's nowhere to buy it. And when you can, you always have to go online to buy it, and it sells out so quickly. We need to produce more physical, and we closed down all the physical media factories. That's another reason. We need to produce physical media. You need to sort of go back to that old school style of the theater run and then physical media releases and then maybe stream, right? I know people have become accustomed to that. That's your problem. You've earned it by making people accustomed to that. Now they want all that streamed directly into their houses, and it's just a bad business model, truly a bad business model. And it's sad to see this happen, but at the same time, I can't feel so bad for the big studio Hollywoods. I feel bad for all the hard workers that are losing their jobs to the people outside of the U.S. That's where I really feel bad, and I'm glad to see people like the independent Damien Leone Terrifier to be able to make movies here in the U.S. and put them in the theaters for people, because Hollywood surely ain't. Hollywood so got their streaming up their butt so far they can't even see what they've done. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. What are your guys' thoughts on streaming being the final act of Hollywood? Let me know all that in the comment section down below. And if you liked what you saw here, maybe consider hitting that like button or subscribing and hitting that bell for notifications. That would be awesome if I earn your guys' subscriptions, or possibly share the video out for everybody to see, or join and become a channel member, because that would help on my channel immensely. Thank you, and shout out to all my channel members. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you guys for being channel members here and for all of your support. And to everybody watching, whether you like me, hate me, or like this video, or hated this video, I thank you for sticking this long. Wherever you all are, please have a great, safe, happy, healthy day, morning, afternoon, evening, and night. Always support physical media, because it really, truly is the superior format. It's way better than streaming. I don't care what anybody says. Godspeed.